All right, community. It is that time in our service where we bring you a message and just tying it into it. Just seems how spirit works, how
That's
everything
it.
kind of goes together.
Ashe,
We
all the
we
time.
read a little bit about just something we had in our hearts to give a little bit about the declarations of innocence, and we read it, and Mama Saraswati said that she was thinking about it and was going to read it, and so we had done that already. I mean, that's just the synchronicity of it all. And I was thinking about it and talked to my daughter who was down in Tuskegee at the homecoming, and then brother the minister Bill just did something on Tuskegee, and that's
Ashe.
like, man, oh man, it's just going so well. And now we're talking about the children, and we're talking about motherhood, and we're talking about spirituality, and that leads right into mama, minister, my sister,
Come on, come on.
Alicia. It all kind of goes together because she is a minister, she is a mother, she is just the epitome of femininity, just all tied into it. So we're getting that, and so we're just so thankful. And if I have a minute, if I can just ask her to come on right now to just deliver, to give us something to sit back and think about. I
Ashe.
say so. If I can call on my dear sister to come in right now, bring that message forward.
Always,
Most
always. She
definitely.
always does.
Bring that message forward. Yes, sir. Ah, Shay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It
This
always
is
starts with
it.
a smile.
Best thing to do.
Yes, yes, yes.
So what's so great is how you just don't know how much it has all been synchronicity today, because when things started coming up, I was like, oh, this is great. Oh, this is great. Because it's all y'all have already done my message. So I should just be like, hey, let it go. But today, we're going to talk about the daily understanding and implementation of Ma'at, passing and receiving the baton. So today we're going to look in the Hosea. I have a few scriptures. In the Hosea, page 5, number 1, it says Ra's description of his creation. Thus saith Ra, the Lord of all, Lord of the utmost limits, after he had come into being. I am the one who came into being as Keper, he who comes into being and brings into being. When I came into being, being itself came into being. All beings came into being after I came into being. Many were the beings that came forth in the commands of my mouth. Heaven had not yet come into being, nor had earth come into being, nor had the ground been created, or the things which creep and crawl upon it. I raised up beings in the primordial waters as inert things. I found no place on which to stand. And this is the highlight. I formed it from the desire in my heart, and I laid the foundation through Ma'at. And then I want to go on to, in the Hosea, still on page 40. We see these words. It's the beginning of the books of wise instruction. We see these words where it says, clearly then, Ma'at, the quintessential moral and spiritual concept of ancient Egyptian sacred literature, forms the core focus of the instructions, even though some rather secular situations and solutions are posed. Moreover, given the inseparable link in ancient Egypt and other parts of Africa between the sacred and the secular, the attempt to separate them makes little sense and meets with even less success. Thus, the sages teach their children and the people to think Ma'at, speak Ma'at, and do Ma'at in secular and sacred situations. For this will not only ensure a mutually beneficial community based on Ma'at, but also everlasting life. And lastly, I want to go to page 83. As we were talking about the children, and about moving on which is 83 number 2, the song for the priest of Ra Neferhotep. Where it says, generations pass away since the first day of creation. The splendor of Ra breathes air. Day dawns in the days of rejoicing then, O priest. Put the finest scent to your nose and garlands of lotus flowers around your neck and shoulders and on the body of your beloved sister who sits beside you. Set song and music before you and all evil things behind. Remember only joy until the day comes when you reach the port in the land that loves silence, and give bread to those who have no field, for so shall you gain a good name for the future forever. Ashe. Ashe, ashe. So again, the message for today is a daily understanding and implementation of Ma'at, passing and receiving the baton. So in thinking of this message, it was really quite awesome because I was like, we need to go in depth with Ma'at, like to get to know Ma'at more, because of the fact that it's such a daily practice that it's one of those things where we need to know more, we need to do more, we need to be able to learn to implement things greater. And so it reminded me of, my thoughts reminded me of when I was in my late teens. I was in my late teens, I had begun locking my hair. And one day I had went to church, and normally I didn't sit in the front. Normally my family, we kind of have like a little space that we sit in, as much every Sunday church people do. They have their favorite, places where they sit. And we usually sit in the back where my dad used to usher at. So we would kind of all be close. But this Sunday, I think it was probably an evening service and they wanted everybody to move up forward. So we kind of I moved in the front and I was getting ready to sit down. And I tell you, and I told the story before, I don't know if you've heard it, but I tell you, before my butt hit the seat, I felt a tap on my back and I turned around. And it was this elder lady and she was like, I do not like your hair. And I was like, who asked you? And I just want to say that to say that a lot of times these are the things that happen that have the young people screaming and running from the church. But I've always been a person that can separate the religion from those who practice it or from those who say they practice it. Because you could really be in church all your life and say you're practicing something, but you're really not doing it. When it's like when me and my friends, when somebody was doing something that we always used to see in church, we always used to see the person in church, and we see somebody doing something that was like antichrist and things like that, we used to shake our heads and say, oh, you Christians. We used to get a kick out of that. But it was always taught to us that in the ideal that you should strive to be Christ-like, not like the person next to you, or not like your auntie or your uncle or somebody that you see at the church, but always try to be Christ-like. Because when you walk on this earth, sometimes you are the only Christ that people see. So you have to be a representative. This is true in all belief systems, though. You will find that there is Muslims that do not submit to Allah. You will find that there's Jews that believe in Jesus that we call Messianic Jews. You will find that there's Christians that don't act anything like Christ. You will see that there's a Buddhists that are full of desire and not compassionate whatsoever. Just like that, you will also see that there are Kemetic people that do separate the secular and the sacred. They only know Ma'at as some untouchable concept of faith, and they just spew it out just so that they can sound like they know something. But I'm not here to judge. And so Minister Imhotep, he teaches us that we are all here in varying states of ignorance. So today we are going to do a deeper dive into Ma'at for understanding and wisdom, and for doing things better on a daily basis, which for me is to take Ma'at off the page and manifest her spirit in our lives. I can read every holy book, but if I never put things into practice, it's all for nothing, and it's a waste of divine time. Principles of Ma'at were guidelines for living in all of society. In all of society, there was leaders. They were there to set examples of the highest demonstrations of Ma'at. And if you did not live Ma'at, you were considered fit for your position.
Sounds is breaking up.
We're like, you have to be the ones that are living it. Thank you for letting me know. Hopefully, if I go slower, it will help. And let me know if I may have to change devices. The leaders were there to set examples for the people who were lay people. And if they were not doing what they were supposed to be doing, they were not fit to hold their office. Ma'at is truth, justice, harmony, balance, order, reciprocity, and propriety. Ma'at in truth, the ability to understand the difference between the real and the unreal. And we see that in our 10 virtues. Reality is grounded in the belief of the greatest goodness, that which permeates all that exists. Truth is the essence of a thing of that thing that is. It's the essence, it's the core. And so that's what truth is. You strip away all the he say, she say, you're stripping away all the opinions and the perceptions, and you get to the core, and that is what's the truth. Justice, the state in which there is equity for all persons, for all creatures, and for the planet on which we all rely. Equity meaning equal opportunity for basic needs to be met. Even when you're talking about the earth, justice for the earth is giving to us, so we need to give back to it. Harmony, the state of being in which different expressions of God's spirit, move together, exist together in a way that creates alignment and beauty. So we want to develop harmony. We want to develop the vibration of working together. We want to develop those things that when you put, just like Minister Sydney was talking about, if you know how to sing and someone else knows how to rap and someone else knows how to do this and someone else knows how to do that, we all come together and it creates a beautiful community because everybody is giving and everybody is receiving. It's called a good vibration. That's when things are working together to make that beautiful relationship. Balance, a state which the internal and external environments of an individual or group are aligned with the Most High, aligned with Mother Nature, aligned with one another and all of creation. Experience of existing in a place where opposites meet. This is your balance, where you're not too heavy or too light. We see that a lot as teachings in the Hosea, not to go too far on one way and not to go too far on the other way, but to kind of be a good balance in the middle, to not do things in excess and not be depleting. Like even when we're giving in reciprocity, don't give so much and never receive. Some people have problems with receiving things. Some people just give and they don't want anybody to give anything to them. They have a hard time receiving things from other people. But Most High is trying to tell us and get across to us that balance is giving and receiving, such as reciprocity. It's doing and then coming back, giving an in-breath and an out-breath. He gave us the balance just in the way that we are breathing. Order, a state of being in which things are arranged in ways that are uncluttered and free of excess and clear. And that's just not talking about the state of our cars or the state of our homes. It's also talking about the state of our hearts and minds, that it's uncluttered, that you have a clear mind, focused on what it is you're supposed to be doing and clear on what path you're supposed to be walking. A lot of times we're cluttered and we're all like, oh, I don't know what I'm supposed to do and this and that, but we don't lean on the Most High and say, well, Most High, this is what you said my purpose is, or Most High, this is what you said that I should be focusing on. We lean onto our own minds and we're like, and our own minds get cluttered with everything around us. There's so much stuff inundating us these days that we have a lot of information swirling around in our brain, and it could easily get cluttered when we're trying to focus on something, when we're trying to focus on being a prayer warrior, or we're trying to focus on meditating every day. We can easily get cluttered with certain things that we have going on in our mind, like, oh, the elections and this person and that person, and we can't still our minds. This is order. Also, to be a person of order, you're talking about regularity. I regularly see this person. I regularly experience this person to be this way. And we're talking about even order with time. You know, I'm not all that great with time sometimes. Like sometimes I'm late doing things, and sometimes it takes me a long time to do certain things, but I try to get things done. We see that order in Ma'at comes when we're watching from our vantage point. We're watching the sun come up, we're watching it move through the sky, we're watching it go down. The order of the day, that's how we can see it in the skies, that's how we see it manifest. So we want to create routines in our lives. Reciprocity, the reality that what comes around goes around. There is a motion, a rhythm of cause and effect, of give and take, forward and backward to every aspect of creation. Everything has an ebb and flow. Everything has an in and out. Everything has a give and take, a forward and backward. And we're talking about reciprocity. We're talking about being able to give, offering of ourselves, also being able to receive. Because one thing that they used to say back in the Christian church was, don't, if somebody was trying to give you something, they was, and you would be like, oh no, it's okay. They'd say, don't block my blessing. And that was one thing that was important. And when it came to reciprocity, because of the fact that when we give, we also receive. And when we receive, then we turn around and we give. And so that is partly a reciprocity that we want to make a reality, more of a reality in our lives. And we see that is very much Ma'at. It's the character that will help us to harmonize with Ma'at and help us to understand a union with Ma'at. Propriety. Propriety means to be and do what is right, to do no harm to another being, beginning with yourself. Beginning with yourself. Know that everyone has a place in this world. So you want to begin by not doing harm to yourself. That's big, because in propriety, when you're thinking about doing things and your character, you're thinking about how you relate to other people, but it's also a relationship that you have to yourself. A lot of people only talk negatively in their heads about themselves. Oh, I'm a failure. Oh, my face looks like this. Oh, my arms look like this. I don't like this about myself. I don't like that about myself. We don't want to do harm to ourselves. We want to love ourselves. We want to be able to love other people. And just to know, like with propriety, we have to understand that everyone on the face of this earth has a purpose of being here. There might be Joe Schmo that sits in a cubicle across from you, and he might just be the most irritating person, and he might just say the most wrong things ever, but he also has a purpose of being there. And he has a purpose for being there across from you, because he has a right to be there, just like you have a right to be there. Because I'm sure, just like everybody else, you probably get on somebody's nerves too with something that you do. And I had to learn that the hard way. But it's more like we have to understand that every person is there for a reason. So we want to honor that person's position in the whole scheme of things, because we're not down here for everything to be roses and smell goods and relaxing on a cloud. That's not our purpose here. We are here so that we can cultivate our spirits, so that we are able to bring forth our spiritual power, so that we are able to bring forth spiritual discernment. We can't do that if everybody is our friend. We don't generate spiritual power on clouds of fluff and rainbows. We just don't. It comes with adversity. It comes with the knowledge and wisdom of this is how I'm supposed to be. And this person's anger towards me is not going to knock me off my square. I'm going to be peaceful no matter what's going on with you. No matter if you're getting in my face about something, no matter if you're doing little things that would normally tick me off. I'm spiritually developing, I'm spiritually growing by being in contact with you, who irritates me. And it's those kind of things that we have to be able to understand that this is what this is, put in its correct place so that we can spiritually develop, so that we can grow. We were all created. The person who's irritating to you, the person who makes you upset, the person who pushes your buttons, God created that person just like he created you. And you don't know what you think is your perfection in and of yourself could be a complete irritation to somebody else. And your play in their life, your character in their life is somebody who's irritating to them in order to be able to project to grow their spirituality as well. And God loves everyone that he created. And so everyone around you has purpose, even if it's someone you dislike. It is all for us to gain that spiritual wisdom by interacting with them. In the aspect of ma'at, we know that, or we want to understand that the aspect of ma'at has to do with love. Not the love that we see on TV or think of in a physical sense, but a love for God and his manifestations. And so I was reading Ron Nefer Amen's book. It's Ma'at, the 11 Laws of God, if you guys can see that. And on page 83, he says, yes, God is omnipotent, but will not force man to become his worldly vehicle. God has left that up to man to choose. And let it be understood now that it is only in joyfully choosing to become God's living temple on earth and in the spirit world that man can show his love for God. But exercising this choice is easier said than done. Its fulfillment requires the elimination of all behavior patterns in the spirit that are contrary to the laws of God. There are the conditionings that manifest as anger, fear, greed, selfishness, hatred, jealousy, envy, lust, vulnerability to temptations and emotions, reliance on one's mind in place of the word of God, and so on. Its fulfillment cannot be had without a mighty struggle that for most people extends over several incarnations. This struggle is none other than the epic battles between the forces of good and evil that have been portrayed in great literary works, secular and spiritual, of many cultures, like the Battle of Set and Heru in the Bhagavad Gita, to name a few. So he's saying that the teachings of Ma'at is here for us to live in order to find union here with the Most High. In our distant past, it was part of our life training. In Kemet, it was part of our life training to learn about Ma'at. It is a major part of what we do here at Wose, rediscovering and remembering Ma'at and putting our training back into our culture to unify with the Most High through putting Ma'at into practice was for the good of benefit for the person as well as for society and the world. The more people begin to love God, the more than their own base desires, the more of God can come into the world. Could you imagine a world where people who claim to believe in Jesus actually put it into practice? Or if all Muslims actually lived the tenets of Islam, did the Shahada, did this, made salat, gave zakat, fasted during Ramadan, and went on a Hajj. Could you imagine if Buddhists actually let meditation work in their lives and lived like Buddha? The same with us. The Hosea says in the book of Kununut, one who lessens falsehood encourages truth, which is ma'at. So if you're lessening falsehood, you're encouraging ma'at. One who supports good diminishes evil. He who cheats diminishes justice. If you're cheating, you're diminishing the ma'at that's coming into the earth. But justice rightly given neither falls short nor brims over. And what is that but balance and ma'at again? So the more we do ma'at, the more the foundation he set. So don't get mad if you jumping off a building saying, okay, God's going to save me, and you end up dying because there's the law of gravity. Or you drink all through your 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, and then sit there and get mad at God because you have problems with your liver. This is an error of living. So now, wherever you're at, do your best to live ma'at, to be the vehicle of God in this world. We cannot change what we did in the past, but we can begin to heal this planet, our people, and ourselves by doing more ma'at. Put everything in front of the lenses of ma'at and see. See and love what you should do and which way you should go. This is the spirit of order, reciprocity, propriety, harmony, balance, justice, and truth. We always talk about honoring our elders. And so I want to say this in that spirit. We always talk about honoring our elders, and we always talk about honoring our ancestors. But sometimes we don't actually do that. I remember seeing a t-shirt not too long ago that said, I am not my ancestors, I will throw them hands. And at first read, you're like, haha, that's funny. But then you start thinking about that, and it's like, that's super disrespectful. It's disrespectful for our ancestors because they lived a whole nother different life than we're living right now. And the only reason that we're living a whole nother different life is, so we can't sit there and say, oh, I'm not my ancestors, I'm going to throw them hands, because you know what? In a situation that they were in, you probably wouldn't. Or you wouldn't be existing. Because a lot of times what our ancestors saw, the things our ancestors had to endure, they wouldn't be throwing them hands. The very person who's saying, oh, I'm not my ancestors, I'm going to be throwing them hands, or you say something wrong to me, I'm going to be doing this, yes, in 2022, you might do that. But in the 1800s, in the 1700s, you probably won't be doing that. And we need to honor our elders. And sometimes we don't understand. And it's not something that I think that we do that's purpose, that's like, oh, purposeful disrespect. I just don't think that we fully get it when it's talking about honoring. Because our elders, I think it's overzealous to come to a position thinking that you can do everything better than the person that was prior to you. Yes, you can have confidence in yourself. You can have confidence in your ideas. But sometimes we have to think of the disrespect that we're saying when we say that whatever you are doing, okay, that's not good. I'm gonna come and do everything better. We have to stand on the shoulders of our ancestors and our elders. We have to take what it is that they've built, the foundation, and build on it. Not say, oh, that wasn't good, let me just tear it down and do my thing. Because that's not respecting what it is that they built, what it is that they did. The leadership that they have shown from the time that they started to the current time when you're taking over. So we are not to judge one another, our ancestors, or our elders. The challenge is to take on the baton and run the race to freedom to the best of our ability, working with our hurdles and gaining wisdom and spiritual power as we go along. Maybe we can also affect change and forward progression as well. Somebody asked about the book, and it is Ma'at, 11 Laws of God. I don't know if you can see it well, by Ra Nefer Amen. We have a charge as a people who know to decide to live a life of Ma'at and not Isfet. We want to live a life of Ma'at and not Isfet. We want to live a life of Ma'at and not Isfet, meaning order versus chaos. But to whom much is given, much is required. And elders, teach as best as you can, guide as best as you can, and gently let go of the baton. It's kind of like parenting. Everything I taught my children, they aren't doing it all. And definitely not in the way that I taught them to do it. From when it comes to taking clothes out of the dryer, folding them, putting them away, to the way you dress or the way you act. They don't do everything the way I want them to. But they will have to make their mistakes and learn from what arises in their spirit when these catastrophes happen from not listening. It's also like businesses. You hate to see a business run steady and proper for years and be a pillar in the community. Then the parents get old and then leave their businesses to their children, and the children sink the business. How many times has that been a story? These things happen when Ma'at is not carefully understood to its application. It's like we have to understand that people have not gotten to the longevity of business by doing everything wrong. They have not gotten to the longevity of life by doing everything wrong. So there's some wisdom in what people before you is teaching you. All parties work and sacrifice. Their ideas and methods should be respected. Knowledge of our interconnectedness needs to be appreciated, and harmony needs to vibrate at a high level. That's the thing about harmony. It deals with vibration, and vibration is how the world was created. Everything vibrates. So if we can all get on the creation's vibration, we can do something. But if we are remaining stuck in our own delusions of reality, where, okay, well, I'm on Alicia's vibration and I can't be moved because I want everyone else to come and vibrate with me. That's not going to work. This is where we experience disconnection. The desire for power and prestige, gluttony, jealousy, and contempt. If you are feeling disunification, then you got to get some of this Ma'at so you can see truth clearly and see that we are all interconnected. You got to be able to get some of this Ma'at in knowing that the good I do for you is the good I do for myself. You're going to have to get some of this Ma'at in knowing that the being God's living temple on earth calls for you to eliminate behavior patterns that are contrary to the laws of God. If you are relying on your own mind in place of the word of God, you got to get some of this Ma'at. Because Ma'at is everywhere. Ma'at is in every place that is yours. Every place that you can think of, that is yours. You rise with Ma'at. You live with Ma'at. You join your limbs to Ma'at. Your right eye is Ma'at. Your left eye is Ma'at. Your flesh, your members are Ma'at. Your food is Ma'at. Your drink is Ma'at. The breath of your nose is Ma'at. You exist because Ma'at exists, and vice versa. I'm going to reread now page 40 of the Hosea, because we have to bring Ma'at into manifestation in our lives. It can't just stay on the page. Our ancestors wanted us to put Ma'at in our lives. From youth, they taught up ma'at. And now it's like this situation and this society, it doesn't do it. So we don't get ma'at until somebody finds wosei. We don't get ma'at until somebody is, you know, teaching somebody who's already grown. We don't necessarily, unless we bring in the children and the people with, you know, the women with the babies, and we don't talk to them, they're missing that from the time that they are babies to the time that they can find out about their ancestry and about what ma'at is and about how to live. Clearly then, ma'at, the quintessential moral and spiritual concept of ancient Egyptian sacred literature, forms the core focus of the instructions, even though some rather secular situations and solutions are posed. Moreover, given the inseparable link in ancient Egypt and other parts of Africa between the sacred and the secular, the attempt to separate them makes little sense and meets with even less success. Thus, the sages teach their children and the people to think ma'at, speak ma'at, and do ma'at in secular and sacred situations. For this will not only ensure a mutually beneficial community based on ma'at, but also everlasting life. Ashe, ashe, ashe.
Ashe, 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 oh.
Ashe, 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 oh.
Ashe, Minister Alicia.
Yes, yes.
Well stated, Minister Alicia. Well stated.
Ashe. Ashe. All right, everybody just take a moment to breathe in that breath that she spoke of. Breathe in that breath of reciprocity. Breathe in that breath of life. Breathe in that breath that connects that set tepi. And then breathe it out. And you have to breathe it out so that you can breathe it in again.
That's it.
And it is just a constant motion, a constant exchange, a constant give and take that we're involved in as long as we are in this life. And as long as we continue to pour libation and call on our ancestors, it is a constant ebb and flow even after this particular realm of life, right? Ashe. For those of you who are joining us today, whether it's for the first time or the 100th time, my name is Minister Ronna Thurston, and I'm wanting to invite you to become a part of the Wose community, the community of the sacred African way. The way is Ma. As we spoke about today, Minister Alicia spoke a lot about community and what that is and the different forms of that, the smaller versions within the church, within the sanctuary, within our homes and our neighborhoods, and then the larger versions that go out into the world, how we're going to be represented in the world. If you have been looking for a place that said something that resonated with you, and you felt that you had that today, if you've been looking for something different, something where it was okay to be Black, it's okay to be African, it's okay to be brown in all versions and all of its glory, this is it. This is where you have arrived today. We open the doors to you for membership. We open the doors to you for participation. And if you are right now feeling like, I think that's me, I think I want to do this, I think I want to be a part of this, come on, raise your hand, put that little hands up sign on your computer, on your telephone, and let us know that you're out there. One of the